Hello everyone, welcome to today's live stream. Today we are drawing Daria Apophis here from the Canyo group chat, which is a Telegram group. And Daria also has a Telegram channel. Daria is not on Instagram, but said to direct people to her Telegram channel where she shares her work. And on Telegram, in the Discord server where I'm sharing the reference and people are sharing their work, where everyone is invited to share, I put the link to Daria's Discord server in there. Hi Lisbeth, hi Ike. I'm looking quite yellow. This is looking really warm, and I'm going to be using really different colors than what I can see here. So I thought this was really cool. Hi Imola, nice to see you. I thought this is such a cool reference photo for the equinox, because thinking about shadow, light and shadow, and yeah, I was looking for a reference which was half in shadow, and this is just perfect. And funnily enough, Kiki, who is here, said that she just did a painting from this reference today, which is very cool. And Daria said, just to let you know, that she's also an artist and would love to wish everyone excellent results from the drawing or painting today. Thank you so much, Daria. Thank you for sharing wonderful photos for people to work from on the Canyo Telegram chat. Leslie, hello. You usually watch the playback. It's so nice to have you here now. And Rachel's here, Cheryl's here. Everyone who's here watching live, please say hello in the chat. My camera's like refocusing a lot and it's looking so warm. Here is my paper, my workspace. It looks a bit kind of, here we go, straighten up a bit. And I'm going to be using polychromos pencils, and I have, my default, well, I was looking for an orange, but I don't know where my orange is. And then I was like, okay, maybe red, but I've got red right here. I'd like to do something different, so they're like really, they exist separately on the page somehow. And then I found this apple green, and I've got my violet here. This is going to be my light color, and this is going to be my dark color. So that's what I'm doing today. And this is really interesting because we could like draw the light shape and draw the shadow shape like as two separate kind of shapes. It's very, very interesting how clearly turned to the darkness that one side is, and one side is like super illuminated. There's like this rim light on the dark side, but it's just like two distinctly separate parts, lighting wise. So that's really cool. Bonsoir, Isidore Artur, nice to have you here. Luis, hola. Leslie, hello. Your watercolor was a bit of a challenge. We'll see how the drawing goes. The flourishing artist is also here. Hello. Je parle un petit peu de français. Bonsoir à tous les amis. Daniel, si tu es là, c'est bien. Et si tu n'es pas là, c'est bien aussi. Okay. I wish there was more French in my head, but there's a lot of German in my head. I'm going to start with a 10-minute timer and see what happens. I'm feeling it might be like 20 minutes. But I'm going to put a 10-minute timer on anyway and see what happens. So, shadow, light. Maybe I'll start with the light side, because if I do the shadow, yeah, I'm going to start with the light side. And I'm going to, as opposed to this, where like this one, where the shadows were done with the same color as the light side. Well, that's the paper white coming through here, but I'm looking at the shape. Oh, and by the way, my workshop for Saturday, I've been talking about it. I was talking about doing it on Sunday, and then I shifted it to Saturday, and I've been talking about it. And now, if you go to dylansara.com, you can get a ticket to the workshop on Saturday. And I saw Kiki has already bought a ticket. Thank you so much, Kiki. It's going to be cool. We will be spending 2 hours together. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Saturday, German time. So my live stream is going to have to be earlier in the day, maybe like much earlier. Yeah, and we'll be spending up to 2 hours together, talking, drawing, sitting in Zoom. You can all ask questions. I will have some great reference for us to work from. Focus on the idea of shadow shapes or shapes in general, recognizing shapes as a way to put a portrait together, which I've been talking about all the time this month in the live streams, because the shadow shapes has been my focus. I will also be making a shadow shapes tutorial for my Patreon supporters. But this Saturday, we have the opportunity to hang out and actually speak, talk together, be together. Yes, Kiki, you said shadow shapes is your weak point, and I have been so happy to be able to address it so much for you, because I see your hunger and your desire to learn and practice and understand, and yeah, it's cool to be able to share it. And focusing on it so much in recent times, I just realize more and more, like I just love it. I just love shapes. So it's a very fun topic to be focused on. And each of the shapes that we put down, I'll say this a lot and again, and it's always good and true. Each shape helps to find, like, either if you're super careful, you can really exactly find where to put things, or it can give you an estimation, a rough idea of where to put the next shape. And sometimes working really fast, like putting a timer on and just going for it, it can be really brief and loose. But if you're really putting a lot of effort into like really taking a good look at the way the different shapes are interacting with each other, how far they are from each other, what angles you're looking at exactly, then you can, with practice, you can get a pretty good kind of drawing done. And I have found that has been, when I'm able to get a likeness, like it's built up of those pieces. And I know there are different approaches, and I just really enjoy drawing this way. So I think this is interesting right now, that this is my light shape, and I hope you can all see that plenty good. I think it's kind of visible. There's some interesting, if I squint at this, like I see this highlight area in the hair here, but when I squint at it, it's nothing like the brightness of the flower and the skin tones. Like, even though I look at it and think it's a highlight in the hair, it's quite dark. So this is, I'm going to lightly hatch in here. The flower is going to be the brightest. Fill in this shape. So this is kind of the reverse, the way I've been looking at the light shape, rather than filling in the shadow shapes first. So this starts to move towards just the idea of any shape, any value shape that's kind of clustered and bulked together. Like, this is so cool. It's just one big form. And as we start to fill in that form, it instantly starts to have a kind of sculptural quality. And it's just so cool. So much fun when that happens, where you just like put down these seemingly abstract shapes, and then once they're given some form and some value, some substance, that they suddenly become something quite different, which is always exciting for me. For the workshops, I have put up, also on the 5th of April, I will be doing a Procreate workshop, focusing on shapes as well. And I was talking about it this week, and the last couple live streams, I was like, once I'm finished the portrait, I'll show you some of my Procreate stuff. And I just forgot to. So maybe you can remind me today if you're interested in seeing it. Because I realized during my mentorship call that when I went through that phase of doing all these Procreate portraits, because of the way I was working, it was just an immersion in shape recognition and looking at shapes. And because of the digital, immediate, flexible nature of the digital media, like it's possible to layer shapes and have transparencies, and it gets really interesting what's possible there. And I have found Procreate in that sense to be really interesting to work with. And having had that immersion, I realized, the way I focused on looking at shapes when I was using Procreate actually really informs also in my traditional media, working with ink and pencil. It really informs the way I look at shapes. So even if Procreate is not predominantly your thing, it's going to be a really interesting session in learning how to use shapes to draw things. And I know Procreate is like Apple only, which is a bit of a drag, a bit of a limitation. But the way I work is with the freehand selection tool. And I'm not sure what apps you Android users are using. But if there's something like the lasso tool, then that is going to work too. So yeah, I don't know what the app would be, but if you are able to do a lasso shape, that's what it used to be called in Photoshop. It is just water in my brush pen, Leslie, yes. It is. And it's just, these are Derwent Inktense pencils. Once they have been wet, they're water soluble. Once they're wet and dry, then they stay in place. They become permanent. That's why they're called Inktense. They're different to watercolor pencils in that way. All right. Now I have my other pencil here, this violet, which is incredibly darker than the green I've just been using. And so now within the shapes that I have left, I can work in what's left, the remainder, the missing pieces, the shadow, integrate the shadow into this portrait. What was I about to say? Procreate. Before I started talking about water-soluble pencils. What was I saying? Yeah, the freehand selection tool. In Photoshop, it was called lasso tool, where you can just squiggle around and you make a selection. The default is often a rectangular selection tool. But the freehand selection tool, or the lasso, is what I use to grab shapes, and then I just drop color into it. And it's a very different way of making an image, and it's really interesting. It's all of these things that make us look and think in a different way as we're working around the image. Those things are cool. The feeling in the head of how am I looking at this now? How can I use this? It's a very different tool. So how do I look at this? And whether it's continuous line, pure line, shape drawing, there are all these ways to engage differently with what we're looking at, which is what I'm focusing on. Each month I'm having a different theme with these drawings, with this practice together with you. And so that's really my aim with the themes that I have laid out for this year, is that each time it's switching into a different mode of perception. And for a given time for this kind of focused practice of like, okay, I'm doing it this way this week. I'm doing it this way, a different way next week. I'm going to be using this tool. I'm going to do something with this. It's each time we're learning to perceive in a certain way, which when we move beyond that, can become part of the ongoing practice that we establish. So there are all these different tools that we have available to us, all these different ways of looking at things. And then for any given piece, you might be like, oh, this feels like this would be really interesting to do it like this and with a little bit of this. And then you can kind of pick and choose how much line work you want to use, how heavy you're leaning into the shapes. Like that's kind of my idea of focusing on all these different kind of approaches and methods throughout these. That was 10 minutes. This is cool, like just this open side of the face. I like it like that. That's pretty cool. I've got another work in progress shot of this. Yeah, and as I was talking to one of my mentorees and they asked about Procreate, something, and in the beginning asked, is it all right in your mentorship to use Procreate? I'm like, of course. It doesn't matter what you draw, what you use. It's about image making. It's about seeing and making things. So it's all good. And then I was looking at their Procreate work. I had some ideas about how this shadow shape kind of stuff, how to incorporate that into the practice. And they were like, well, I had no idea that you've done all this Procreate stuff. And it's like, yeah, I just haven't done it for years. But I'm really, yeah, I enjoyed it so much. It was a really fun way of making images, which I would never be able to do on paper. And if you remind me once we get to the end of this stream, then I'll show you my Procreate work, because the last couple of days I've been talking about it and only remembered once I ended the stream. Wow, this is cool. Just like this. This is interesting right here. It's also really fun. I enjoy and find it quite relaxing to just pick some colors that are not really representative of what's going on, because it's then you remain focused on the values. But if you have a light color and a dark color, you still can really establish like strong value relationships, which is super fun. Unless you pick two colors that are like the same value, and then it's super hard. Like a red and a blue, or a purple and a yellow ochre, when the yellow ochre is surprisingly dark. That's challenging too, which I tried to do last week and floundered. So here with the light, there's this really cool rim light, and so there are, within the shadow, there are also shadow shapes, which are really cool. Oh, crispy. There's a bit more focus. That's nice. There have been some weird things going on. Like I came to OBS, the streaming software that I use, and this camera was like flipped upside down, and I didn't do that. So that was a weird things going on. Or how my microphone was turned off yesterday. I didn't turn it off. I don't know what's going on. Lewis says Sketchbook app is for all devices. Infinite Painter, Clip Studio, says Cheryl. Inktense, yes, very cool pencils. And it's free. I'll have a look at Sketchbook app and see if it does, if I can figure out, or do you know if there's like a lasso tool, Lewis? Infinite Painter and Clip Studio, I don't know. But interesting if it's free and if it can do what I want it to do, which is it's a pretty basic function. Procreate can do so much, and I don't need nearly all of it the way that I work. Hello, Tommy. So nice to see you and have you here. I did not realize the first time I looked at this that there's actually glasses, which is cool. I love drawing glasses. Glasses at night. All right. Cool. This is really cool right now. And I wonder where it's really dark. Like, I'm just kind of thinking, how much should I hatch in here? Because even just taking the water brush and taking some pigment from the lines I've put here, that would already like set up a pretty nice purple, and it wouldn't be super dark, but just like value-wise, it would be really different. Before I start getting dark, I'll just grab that. Danielle has arrived. Marquis Danielle, hello. Hello, so nice to have you here. Isidore Artur has been talking about you and you have arrived. So nice to have you here. How are things? It's interesting, this eye on the right side of the face is like so much in darkness that I kind of find it hard to distinguish what's going on. So there's the corner of the eye over here where it's like lighter, and then maybe I'll just make the rest pretty dark. Get a bit of this in there, but that's, if I just hatch that in, I'll be able to wash that darkness over the shadow side of the face. So the nose here, interesting, this is an important little highlight on the tip of the nose that defines that edge. So that is important to notice. In addition to the workshop, which is on Saturday, which you can join, where we'll be focusing on shadow shapes, which we've been doing all month, but it's going to be a workshop, and we get to talk to each other, and really any questions that come up that you have, that maybe you have during the streams as well, and you think like, what? Like some things I've heard from some people recently in the mentorship talks is like, how do you even see that? Like, why do you put that thing there? Why in that moment did you just do that? And it's cool in the Zoom context, in the workshop and in the mentorship calls, to like when people just speak up and say, what is that? How did you do that? What are you even seeing? I don't see what you're seeing. What are you talking about? And then to be able to like really focus on whatever those things are, because I think that can be super helpful in understanding some of these decisions that are being made. Because I remember watching tutorial videos and stuff and just being like, how do they even perceive what they're talking about? I'm like, I do not get it. And the great thing about being in a voice-to-voice Zoom situation is whenever those things come up, just totally just like ask, and then I can be like, oh, well, it's this, and then it's a very personalized and direct way of teaching and learning. And my mentorship is opening up for the second round. So if anyone's interested in joining, there is a page on my website, which I need to update with a new video because I'm talking about starting 2025, and that's changed. So there will be a new video coming up, but all of the questions and answers that are on that page are all still relevant. So you can check that out if you feel like the mentorship could be something of interest to you to help focus and put your learning in alignment and having the group accountability and just being able to pick my brain as well as the rest of the group. Like that's the group dynamic is really wonderful. What arises through the shared experience is really, really cool. So that's coming up. In about a month's time, the next round of the mentorship will begin. So get in touch if you're interested. Oh, that was my second 10-minute slot. How's everyone doing? Now I'm going to add water to these shadow shapes and see what happens. It's pretty much, I feel like it's already, it's set up so nicely, like this. But it's gonna push it even more once this pigment is like activated, which is pretty fun with these pencils. And so I've talked about this before, but the thing that's interesting with these pencils is the quality that they're permanent once they have been wet and dried, so they don't re-wet like other watercolor pencils do. Just gonna squeeze some more water into the brush. It's really dry. So who here is in the Kanyo group chat? If you want to access it, you'll have to send me a message somewhere, somehow. Or you could email me, dylan.illustration@gmail.com. Because there's like an invite link, which I don't want to just put in the description to this video. There are a lot of other links. Feel free to read through the description of the video for all my other links. But yeah, the Kanyo group chat is a reference sharing chat. There are many different facets and aspects of Kanyo, but this particular part is for sharing reference, for people to draw and paint each other, and it's really, really cool. So I found Daria's photo there today. And because of the equinox, I just thought it'd be really cool to have a face which is half illuminated and half in shadow. That would be perfect. And then I just saw this, Daria uploaded this photo yesterday, and it is perfect. So that's pretty amazing. Such a cool resource. And then I wrote to Daria and was like, oh, can I use this? And she's like, of course, that'd be great. And then we just chat a little bit. And it's such a nice way to get in touch with artists from various places around the world. Maybe even artists from the same place. Maybe you'll find someone there who's also where you are. Okay, how is everyone feeling? I'm feeling close to being finished for today's drawing session. So the idea of this daily drawing practice, I think it was last week, wasn't it, that I was sticking to 10 minutes. And we have done some sketches where it was even just 5 minutes. And so this has been a bit longer, heading towards half an hour of drawing. But the idea is in a brief time frame to do something, and sometimes you'll be surprised with what you can do in that short amount of time. And doing it together is just so much fun. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. Could get much darker over on the shadow side of the face, but this is already working. I feel like it's pretty good. Kiki has to leave early. Cool. You're going to figure drawing class, maybe. Adam needs to jet too. You can put your drawing hand emoji in the chat if you've made it this far. That's always nice. Leslie, I'm glad you like it. And if you're watching the replay, if you're watching live or watching the replay, if you have not yet hit the thumbs up button, please do. And if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Then you'll be informed when I set up my live streams and when I'm going live. And yeah, if you're watching the replay, you can leave me comments. And some people have been doing so, and they've been saying interesting things. And I have been answering. Because even if you can't be here live, I still really appreciate you tuning in, drawing along. It's great. So thank you all for being here. And please check out if you're interested in the Zoom workshop on Saturday, there'll also be a replay available. Also had someone ask who say, I'm not sure I can be there, but I'd really like to. Is there going to be a replay? Yes, there will. So you'll be able to watch that. It'll almost be as good as being there live, almost. But if you can be there live, it's going to be really, really, really cool. So I'd love to have as many of you there as can make it and feel drawn to participate. Tommy, thank you for relaxing with me in this moment. It's always great to have you here. Relaxing. Almost bedtime for me. We'll be here again tomorrow. All right. Thank you, everyone. Glad there's a replay. Have tickets to Broadway play Saturday. That's exciting. Cool. Hi, Lisa. Clap to you. Thank you, everyone. This is always fun. And when the drawing turns out really cool, it's like an extra bonus. And then we can dwell upon, oh, why does this one work so well? Obviously, it's a really strong reference. The value relationship between the green and the purple is really cool, really clear shapes. And when we start to notice the things that we like about our own work, we were talking about this yesterday, sometimes we notice things we don't like. And that's also a great learning experience. But when you're noticing what you do like, and you can, and for example, it could be the reference. Like I notice there is a certain type of reference that when I see it, I'm just like, I want to draw that. And like it has the right amount of information. It has this cool light and dark relationship. I feel like this is something I'm going to be able to draw, and I'm going to have fun drawing. And that can also be part of it. Just recognizing, like, what is it that I feel like I'm able to draw well? What do I enjoy drawing? And I've had situations where I've been drawing things where I haven't chosen the reference myself, whether it's a commission or some art challenge where someone else has chosen stuff, that I'm like, oh, it can be hard to get into it. Like if there's just less information, if it's maybe a bit flat or whatever. So recognizing that, oh, I like this and I think it worked well because of these features in the reference, and even noticing that can be super helpful, because that can help you make informed decisions about what references you're going to choose. I see the likeness is off. There are things in the chin, there's like all this stuff that's not quite right, but I still feel really good about the drawing. So that's a pretty good situation to be in. And I think because there's so much of interest, there's so much information in the reference, that the way I've stacked it all together, even though it's not in perfect alignment and it's not exactly like the original image, it's still a cohesion. It still exists together in a really cool way, which still has some of that coolness of what's so nice about the reference photo. Yeah. So that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Procreate. There you go. I was just about to end this. Lisa was paying attention. I will show you some Procreate work. So if you still have a minute, I will show you some of my work that I've done in Procreate. So thank you, Daria, for your wonderful self. And here we go. I have a stack of Procreate pieces that I've done. Here we go. And thank you for reminding me. I did not show Procreate, Nicole. So here are some Procreate things. Oh, what do we start with? This is one in particular that I really liked, and the color's a bit weird. Maybe like that. And if we get in close, you see that nearly the whole thing is just made up of shapes. So there's like a little bit of scratchy line work, but the line work came at the end just to add a little bit of definition, but it's all about shapes. And the freehand selection tool, the lasso tool, I would like, you can do it with your finger. I have an Apple Pencil, but you can also do it with your finger. You can do this on your phone. There's Procreate Pocket, you can use it on your phone, and you can do this kind of stuff on your phone. It's just smaller, but you probably always have it with you. So just by selecting the shape, you make a shape, and then from the corner you can drop a color into it, and it instantly fills, and then you instantly have this shape that you use. And you can see here like the layering of the shapes, and it was such a fun process. And this kind of thing, look at this nose, like I feel like this would be possible using transparent paper, and it would be amazing, but it would take so long to make. And these did not take as long to make. So yeah. And there's also the color. You can just experiment so freely with color without like worrying about the cost of the materials, because you've already spent a lot on your device. It's already there, and you can just like experiment with all this stuff. What's another cool one? Also something that I really enjoy doing was all of these like have a strange kind of unified color layer or something. Here's Shannon. And Shannon also had, where was it? Potato on her head, a smiling potato. And when I'm finished painting, so this is the way I actually made it. These were the original colors. as original. What I see is different than what you see, but this is what I made initially, and just look at all those shapes. And then when I'm finished doing it, let me just put this little potato friend back on Shannon's head. Then I just make like a color layer, and this is a saturation layer, and just to see like, oh, what does this do when I use this layer? Just like, and you can see is like this blue color that I just put on top of it, and drop the opacity a bit, and just go through these layers to see like, what do they do? And it's kind of magical. Like you put all this effort into making your painting or your piece, whatever it is, and then you just like can go through here and be like, wow, what about like that? Oh, that's really interesting too. And it takes certain aspects of what's already existing there. I thought that was really interesting. A lighten layer, and it's like pushing the contrast, and so the bright and dark, the relationship there is really interesting. So it takes all this stuff you've already done and puts it through this digital filter where it does really interesting stuff with it. And you can just like have all these different versions of your painting. It's kind of magical. It's fun to play with. And that's something I've seen in the mentorship, and also other people that sometimes they're playing around with some of the digital stuff. And although I really love drawing on paper, it can be really exciting playing around with this, particularly with this freehand selection tool. Right here, if I take a layer out, like it's all these, I use lots of layers, and for different features, for different things, I'm just like have all these different layers which have different details or different sets of values, and there's just a lot of overlapping, and I really enjoy the transparency of it. So this is the kind of stuff that I'll really get into detail with on Saturday in the workshop. So if you're interested in following along with this kind of stuff, then Saturday on the 5th of April, the second workshop. So there are 2 workshops coming up, and if you sign up for both of them, you get a good price. And in the second workshop on the 5th of April, this is the kind of stuff I'll be getting into. And just look at all those shapes. Don't we love shapes? Yes, we do. So that was it. Thank you for reminding me, Nicole and Lisa, that I said I was going to talk about Procreate. And here we go. Here's today's drawing again, moving back to the paper. So I do love working with traditional media, but it's exciting to use digital media in a way that would be impossible or very impractical to do with traditional media, with something physical. Tommy, it's a good ability to be able to leave the reference to get a good drawing. Yeah. Yes. That's cool. Like, I feel really good about this. Sometimes I look at the reference and I'm like, oh, I wish it was a bit more like that, but there's something, this is just like, looking at on the screen now alongside each other, I'm like, oh, if that was a bit more like that, that was like that, I start to see all these things that could be a bit different, to make it look a bit more like Daria. But without Daria next to it, I'm just like, yeah, this worked, this is cool. Leslie, you only use Procreate to correct paintings you don't like. That is, I also use it to make my thumbnails for my videos. Whenever you see a picture of mine, a thumbnail or a post on Instagram that has text over it, I use Procreate to put text on top of my images. So I use it for different things. I look at my reference on it because you can zoom in and it stays the size you want it to be. There are a few different things, but yeah, that way of just making an image with shapes is exciting to me. So that is a fun thing to be able to do with it. Okay, so that was a little bonus Procreate session. Thank you for reminding me, because I forgot the last few times, even though I said I was going to have a look. À demain, tout le monde. Bonne soirée. Faites de beaux rêves. I wish you all a wonderful night's sleep, deep and restorative rest, love and compassion, clean water. Take care, everyone. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to drawing with you. tomorrow.